Hello, family. Happy 2-2 portal day. 222. Oh my goodness. It's actually 2-2-2-2-3. And so it's a triple portal day. And what that means is that whatever magic we create today is intensified and magnified. And so we want to be careful about what we're calling in, what we're inviting in, what we're thinking about, what we're saying. And so this is a really potent conversation because we're really going to talk about what it takes to eradicate shame and guilt and self-criticism. And it really does start with ourselves, with our own body, with the programming that we've been, all the belief systems and the cultural, religious, societal norms we compare ourselves to, our personal beliefs that we came up with as a young child, how we brought it into our adult life. And a lot of times it has to do with our sacred portal or our sacred phallus and how we view our sensual anatomy. And so we're going to dive right into that topic. But until then, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about the symbology of today. I actually spoke about this a little bit earlier on a live stream. And 222 really is all about, it's a new cycle. It's a new chapter that's coming up. And we are here to embody the new earth. And so what does that mean? That means that we want to concentrate our efforts on three major fronts in our life in the next coming days and weeks from this portal day. So we want to balance within our beings, and that's balancing the feminine and the masculine, as well as just coming into that unified field of the neutral observer, and also examining our love and our relationships and how we want to grow into the future. So these are the things that are going to be at the top of the list for the next few weeks. But 222 mostly, it's a cosmic alignment of the male and female energies, the yin and the yang, the negative and the positive, the dark and the light, and a unifying force that's going to birth us into our new reality. And so here we go today. The best way for us to access our new reality is to start with ourselves. And what better place to start than our own sacred portal or phalluses? So I am so excited to have our expert panel here with us today. We're going to start with my beloved Sierra Sullivan. She is the founder of the Portal Priestess Mystery School, which I've been attending events and a part of for the last 6 years. She's also the co-founder with her partner, Rana Smith, of Eden World. It's a conscious couples community that my husband, Andrew, and I have been a part of for several years now as well. So Sierra, please share with us a little bit more about who you're being in the world.
Oh, thank you. Well, our history goes back so far. So I love that you're along this ride with me and with Rano. So as Anistara shared with you all, I have two major operations in the world: offerings, transmissions, holding of medicine. And the first one is Eden World for couples. It really is a passion Rano and I have been in. We're basically relationship connoisseurs, I would say. And we love the art of love and connection and relationship. And so we gather the best of the best couples so that we can share our wisdom. And then for the Portal Priestess Mystery School, that's something that right around the same time I started, it all kind of began in 2016. And I know we're going to be really talking a lot more about that dynamic today. But the Portal Priestess Mystery School is a training ground to hone women's intuition and learn the art of pussyology, while also on a mission to eradicate pussy shame, which is also body shame, around the world. And so it's a school that allows that to happen and brings women into that conversation and activation. And there's so much more I can say about it, but I think that lays the groundwork pretty good.
Yeah, so good. Thank you, Angel. All right. Well, I have Jonathan up here next on my spotlight, so I may as well just add him here. Hi, darling.
Hello, hi. My name is Jonathan Hudson, and I'm also part of the Eden community. My wife and I kind of hold down the sexual puzzle piece of that whole area. We are somatic sexologists. So if you don't know what that is this subject is everything we do on a day-to-day basis. Looking at the programming, where you got those stories, all the stuff that comes in from religion and society and shames our bodies, our sex, our genitals from a very young age. And we help people really get that stuff out of the body so that they can live a vibrant life full of freedom. I also very specifically work with men towards unleashing the primal masculine, but in a safe way. I think what's happened over time is men have gotten a little soft in some areas as their heart is open. And so I love their hearts being open, but I want to bring them back to their power. So for me, it's about connecting sex to the heart, to source that makes all the difference. Also, my wife and I are retreat facilitators. I'm trying to get that word out of my mouth. And we'll talk about this later, but we're having a shamanic lovers retreat coming up in June, which is going to be amazing. So it's an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Happy to have you, brother. Yay. All right. We have Julie Avina here, sister. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Julia Vina, and I am a meditation teacher, intimacy coach, and medicine woman who is passionate about helping people, inspiring people to make their spiritual practice more juicier, and for couples to make their lovemaking rituals and intimacy time sizzling hot. Through that, the path of this for me is around ritual, creating rituals in our day-to-day lives. And my intention for this transmission today is to show how we can use ritual to alchemize shame around our genitals, our sexuality, around our identities, and so forth. Here, recognizing the sacred portal and the sacred phallus.
Yes. Beautiful. Oh, goodness. This is going to be juicy. Rano, my love, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Rano, and I'm just a regular old guy compared to all these amazing folks. But I have been a temple guardian for about 15 years. I've been doing women's work with Sierra along her side for 10 years. And then I split off for a couple of years to just find myself in the world and stretch my own wings. And then when Sierra and I reconvened, we started Eden World together, which all of these beloveds are part of as well, because I believe, and many of us believe, that it's through the healing of the masculine and feminine, the coming together in that space. A lot of times I say the mom and dad togetherness, or the parenting togetherness. Like when the mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom, or them and them are happy, then we have great children in the world. And then those great children grow up to be great parents and great leaders and great everything. So I feel it's a very important part of us to heal that and understand it. Like, I know, Jonathan, you can probably relate to this, but sometimes it's really hard to understand the mystery of the feminine. And so my whole mission is to really seek to understand and seek to find that common ground between all the places. And so I could say more, but I'm sure we'll get into it later. So thanks for having us here, Anistara.
Oh, thank you, Rano. And as so many, I mean, I honestly am so grateful. I feel like I'm just on a call with my best friends here. So we've been together for a long time. And so I'm so grateful to introduce these beautiful people to our 1111 Unified community. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Anistara Maka. I'm the mother of 1111 Unified. I'm a mother, a wife, an intuit, a visionary pioneer, and an ordained minister. I'm many things: a healer, massage therapist, theta healer, so many different trainings and
amazing hooper.
I've been through. Thank you. But most recently, the Portal Priestess Mystery School, I went through the initiation, I became an apprentice, and now what would you call it? An ordained pussyologist? Pussy oracle? Yeah. Sacred portal yoni oracle reader. And so we're going to get into what that means for you ladies, because our divine design shows us exactly the codes and the messages that we need for our life path and to live a more radiant and fulfilling life. So yeah, I'm really excited to share more about that. And we have like one-on-one yoni oracle readings to offer and things like that. I'm going to throw a couple of events that I have coming up into the chat. You could take a look at those. But I wanted to start this all off with a poem that I had recently written. And I hope you don't mind that I share this with you. Divine feminine, long neglected by patriarchal society, rejected. Cultural programming, so entrenched, making women feel like they're not worth a cent. But an empowered woman, she stands so tall, With a connection to her yoni, she'll never fall. She knows the power of pleasure and delight, a force to be reckoned with, shining so bright. For eons, the feminine has been ignored, her wisdom and strength forevermore. But she rises up, reclaiming her throne. No longer second best, she stands alone. She let us celebrate this goddess divine, her spirit, her power forever to shine. For in touch with her yoni, she finds her bliss, a true embodiment of feminine power and grace. Yes. Thank you. Okay, amazing. Let's dive in because we certainly have a lot to talk about here. And I'm just pulling up my outline really quick so we can stay on task here. Don't mind me. All right, so we're going to be sharing, first of all, some of our own experience around the programming, like how our upbringing created our beliefs, and mostly around our sensual anatomy, our sacred portal or phallus, and what is a short story about how you felt shamed or abused or criticized. So if anybody wants to jump in first, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll just start calling you out. Let's see. Jonathan, you're not muted. You want to jump in?
I was gonna jump in anyways. It's funny not having Heike here because now I got the mic out of myself. It's kind of fun.
Ooh, cool.
I thought about this question, and I was raised by a very sexually open mom. She was part of like the Woodstock generation, and so sexuality was a normalized thing, and naked people was normalized. Like I never thought that there was anything wrong with it. So I didn't get the programming. We didn't go to church. Like I was never told it was wrong or bad. I think where I've created my own shame through the years is my own story that men about sex. And so God knows I put my foot in my mouth a few times over the years, speaking to a crowd that wasn't ready for my message. And what happened is, even though they didn't directly shame me, I shamed myself. I'm like, wow, you're too much. Calm down, get quiet, pull back. And then I'm really, what happens in my system is then I'm kind of at a loss, is like, wow, this is my, on one hand, it feels like my mission. I know how powerful it is. And at the other hand, it's like this self-shame. So that's something that I've had to work through the years of just owning who I am. And those that will hear it will hear it, and those that won't. But of course, learning how to do that in perhaps more subtle ways. But you know, it is the story of, can a man talk about divine sexuality, have it be heard and accepted in the same way we do with the feminine.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. I have a 7.5-year-old son named Cadence, and we really are training him. We're doing our best to help him grow in a very healthy way around his sexuality. He's naked all the time. He likes to pleasure himself already. And when he walks into a room full of women, we invite him to call them goddesses, Gaias, ladies, girls. Like, don't walk into a room full of women and call us guys. So yeah, it starts at a young age. And yeah, that's amazing. I love that you didn't have that programming. Not everybody has that story. So thank you for being the first to share. Yeah. All right, who wants to jump in next? Avina.
So, speaking of shame and original sin, I was raised Roman Catholic. And in that religious programming, you know, the shame around woman, the original sin around woman in the Garden of Eden was very prevalent in the culture I was raised in. But here's a little story time. So in the Catholic Church, you get to choose to be an adult, you know, when you're a teenager, to go through this process of actually choosing to join the church. And when you do that, you get to choose a patron saint. So me, not even knowing much about what I was doing, I wanted to choose Mary Magdalene as my patron saint. Even though she was written out of the Bible, like, I wanted to know about this chick. I wanted to study her, because you get to study them. And at that time, she wasn't actually recognized as a saint in the Catholic Church. This was early 90s. And I was denied. And they said, no, she won't be your saint. Choose St. Francis. Do you like animals? And I'm like, no. And so that was actually my first rebellion, because I actually walked away from choosing to join the church in my confirmation through the confirmation ritual, and walked away and went on my own path of studying these different female figures in spirituality so that I can heal that original shame. Another piece of programming that I carried that I believe a lot of women and men can relate to is around, sexual abuse, especially in childhood, although it happens to many in adults. The average statistics are 1 in 2 women will experience some sort of sexual violence in their life. 1 in 3 men, which I think is even more shameful in culture to even talk about and admit, will experience sexual assault. And for me, with the programming I received through I think the biggest shame was around actually experiencing pleasure during some of the moments of sexual abuse and assault that I had in my timeline. And so that programming, to actually admit, gosh, all of this bad stuff was happening, but I also felt pleasure, is something that I've dedicated my life to heal and transform and empower women, especially, but also men, that it's okay to feel pleasure also, and also alchemize and heal the shame around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Sierra Rano?
Go ahead.
All right. It's an interesting question. I was like, okay, what is my shame story? Because like Jonathan shared, I had a mom who I was also raised Catholic, Roman Catholic. And so there was just that built-in shame that comes from, I went to Catholic school, all of that. But my mom specifically was very open and always wanted to, she would buy us anatomy books. And I never felt shamed particularly. But what was interesting is somewhere along the way, it seeped in. And I remember when I would hear about people teaching workshops where they were pussy empowered or they're going to yoni gaze, I remember feeling really squeamish and like completely grossed out. And I was like, okay, I don't know why that came. I think it came more from society than my family or maybe the Catholic Church. But for the first time, I finally went to a pussy empowered retreat workshop. And there was a moment where they're like, okay, everybody pull down your pants and we're going to do this, like, yoni parade or whatever it was. And I just about bolted out the door and ran to the bathroom. And had I not enrolled a friend of mine to take the course with me, who said, no, you've talked me into being here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this in front of everybody. And for me, it was less about what anything looked like at the time. It was more about like smell or my fear of like, what that would mean, or, and there was something around the sexual nature of it. Yeah. And then I'll just say, I was a pretty sexually empowered child and I didn't realize it. I remember being on the playground with my girlfriends and I would climb up the swing set pole. I had enough of an angle. I climbed and I was like, wow, this feels really good. And being the leader that I am, I'd be like, hey, come here. let me show you. This is really cool. Check it out. And so I remember we had a code word. Like we didn't know what to call it back then. I don't even know if I had a word. I think the word was vagina, which is anatomically incorrect ultimately for the whole thing. It's just that one part. But I remember enrolling some of my friends and we had this code where we're like, okay, how did your hand feel today? Did you feel good with your hand when you climbed the playground pole or whatever? And so we were pretty secretive about it. We never got caught. They were probably wondering why all the girls were hanging on to the swing set so tightly, but it was, I was able to kind of buck the system and get some pleasure and some play and some conversation in with this was like, I don't know, first grade, I think. So I have a very, nuanced relationship with my genitalia.
Got it.
Yeah. So for me, the shame or abused or criticized, like those are all the different elements. It's interesting. Sierra and I actually grew up 2 blocks from each other. She was on 5th. I was on 7th. We both went to St. Mary's and we literally went to all the same schools, including college together. we were just friends. I was more friends with her sisters, but anyways, long life together. And the stereotypical shame from Catholic upbringing, for sure, like sex is dirty, save it for the one you love, and which is always confusing. And then I think for me, it was more about being criticized because I was a creative even early on in my life. Like a lot of it was being criticized for maybe being more in touch with my feminine side. Even though I'm a MacGyver and can build a house from, bare hands and stuff like that. A main reason Sierra didn't want to date me for the longest time was because I was a pretty boy as well. And so like, I'm a man's man in pretty boy clothing. And so I got criticized like early on, like, oh, you're gay. Like I was gay, this, gay, that, gay, this. And so I was like, oh, wow, I guess I'm gay, but I'm like, I'm not gay because I really like women, but like, so I had a lot of these type pressures on me. And just the stereotypical, sex before marriage is bad, even though I found out later in life that my parents had sex before marriage. And, even though they held that so hard, like a hard line.
Yeah.
So I think just the general typical shame and criticism of coming of age that most children and kids and teens have to deal with in some way or another. And it's hard for me to understand it from this point of view in my life now. But it is still there, and I am still working through some of those things. Fortunately, I think having a positive, solid relationship helps work through those things. So
Yeah. Thank you, Rana. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, mine is definitely more about guilt and self-criticism. When I was younger, my mom would call it private parts. Like we literally couldn't use the word vagina or penis. And it just made it that it's private and that I'm not supposed to talk about it, or I'm supposed to keep it covered all the time, or, whereas my son, he's 7.5, he still walks around naked. Like I love his freedom in that. And I didn't have that. And so I'm really doing my best as a mom to kind of end certain programmings to not put it into my son and how we're upbringing him. And so we're really open now about allowing him to just be himself, however that is. And for me, when I was a teenager, I also enjoyed the swing set, Paul. I was like, oh, that's an interesting sensation, right? Yeah. I also enjoyed the bathtub, right? Or a shower nozzle. And I was like, huh. But then my mom caught me once and it was so not okay, like taboo somehow. And like, this is enjoying for me. Like, why would you want me to not do something that I'm actually getting pleasure from and happy about? And so that really kind of made me downward spiral to a certain point of like, is it wrong for me to want that? Like, am I not worthy of pleasure in my life? Like, am I allowed to feel good? And all those answers were like, no, until really I found Andrew and we are on this whole journey of a committed relationship and learning and discovering what it is to get through some of those things. And I also had moments of sexual abuse and a family member as well when I was about 12 years old. And so it was really something that I had blocked. Like I didn't have it in my consciousness until I was about 17. I was also part of a Christian Baptist church and was on a camp, and they were going through the kids, like just talking about, is there anything inappropriate that you need to share, process? And I just started bawling. I didn't even know what I was crying about at first. And it all just came rushing back. And I was like, oh, wow, I really just blocked this from my psyche, And so I was wondering how that affected me and my rebellious years and just all of it. So fast forward to 7.5 years ago, I was ready for a home birth. And I actually, after 3.5 days of labor, needed to go to the hospital and have a surgical birth with my son. And so I was physically cut in half. And I could not see my yoni because I had gained 85 pounds through the pregnancy. I was literally cut in half, cut from my yoni, cut energetically, spiritually, all my connection just cut. And a year later is when Sierra had her first pussy church, and we went, and we'll explain some of the process a little bit later, but I was like, wow, I actually started to create a connection with her. And that was one of the most healing moments of my life. And it started me on the path of the portal priestess, which we're going to share more about. So that's where I'm coming from. That's where this lady's coming from. So what we wanted to talk about next is really, when did that change for you? So I just shared, something that happened, and then when something changed. And so if it wasn't a change, when was like a big realization, whether it was a shift, whether it was you activating others into their empowerment. And so I just want to have a better understanding of when you started wanting to go on the path of assisting others through this change and through the shift and through, and the desire and the want to transmute this energy. Because even if we're doing it individually, we're doing it collectively, but you are teachers for others to do it and to be guides. And so share a little bit more about that, please. Yeah. Whoever feels.
Sorry, that's a great question. I said I didn't have sexual trauma, but I did have a lot of physical trauma as a young child. And so I kind of very early on started like finding ways that I could use pleasure to always heal, to feel better, even though the whole idea of being a sexual healer didn't cross my mind at the time. But I ended up in my life really on that channel of using pleasure to heal the past circumstances. And it was when I met my beautiful wife, Heike, and she opened me up to the whole world of energy and spirituality, which was like the red pill. And all of a sudden we combined this ability to heal using our pleasure and using our sensuality and using our sexuality, not with just each other, but then taking this to serve other people. And so over the last decade, we've worked with hundreds of clients who it breaks my heart, the amount of not just programming, but trauma that comes into our door. I mean, every single person, men and women, have stuff that they haven't shared with their family, they haven't shared with their friends, and they share here. And my friends have asked me, how do you do this? How do you do this every client? And I'm like, because I hold the end result, and the end result is their freedom. And so, and no matter what, it takes a village from every aspect. Somatics is just one path. There's many different paths to healing, but to be able to hold somebody through the fears, through the tears, we go back in time to the original trauma and we do something about it in kind of like make-believe land, but it works, because if that person wanted to kill their attacker, we let them do that. If they need to yell back at them, whatever we need to do to set the record straight. And the beautiful part is the body doesn't have to hold on to that memory anymore as a protection mechanism. It can let it go. And when that happens, that's when that freedom and power and vibrancy and the truth of who you are can just come out and shine. So I love being on the path. I love what we're doing. I want to do it for the rest of my life. And I tell Heike, I don't know, I can't be doing this at 80 years old, but I don't think there's anything else I want to do.
Amazing. Thank you.
And why not, man?
Yeah, why not? The Einstein gray hair going there, yeah.
Yeah.
Julie, you had your hand up. Do you want to go next?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was 19 years old, I had rebelled by becoming a hippie, and I was at this big hippie campout gathering. And I met this old man in a tie-dye union suit who was rapping about this thing called Tantra. And I ended up kind of studying and apprenticing with this sweet old man for a month and a half. Every day I sat by his side and learned the art of the energetics of meditation and yoga to utilize sexual energy for liberation and healing. And in that experience, just sitting there, I'll never forget, this gentleman was trained in the lineage of Osho. And we were all sitting in a line. It was women on one side, men on the other. And we were doing this breath work. We weren't even touching each other, but we were looking in each other's eyes, doing this ritual. And I had an experience, and my sexuality was a little confusing at the time in terms of my connection to my pleasure. I had a full-blown, what's called in yogic lineage, a kundalini release. And I basically had this, like, in every cell of my body, this full body orgasm, but it was energetic, yet physical too. Like I remember my panties were wet, my nipples were erect, like it was erotic, but completely spiritual. And that changed my life forever. That put this whole other energetic around my sexual energy, that it can be spiritual as well, that it can be included in my spiritual practice. After that rejection from the church being like, oh, how dare Mary Magdalene be your patron saint, to wow, I can have this beautiful spiritual practice that honors my sexuality, that isn't even necessarily overtly sexual, but will allow me feel the energetics of pleasure that healed me to my core. And so for me, that set me on a path, a lifetime path of not only my own personal healing, but wanting to share this opportunity of being able to use our breath and ritual and spirituality in a way that can be, hot and juicy, but also sacred, to help alchemize that shame that so many of us carry in our culture.
Wow, so beautiful. Yes, Kundalini activation. Full body orgasm. We need to have a class. Yeah. Rana or Sierra?
Oh my gosh. It's hard to remember. Like, there's so many stories I think I could draw from, because there's been so many iterations of my path of teacher and holding and sensuality, sexuality, and then of course leading up to the Portal Priestess Mystery School. But I think I can track back to two major things. The first one being Burning Man, right? Which is, I like to describe it as the flamethrower to the pilot light of one's soul. And right, it's like, if you go to that, and I went when I was 1998, I was 22 or so. And so it was like, I'm now, more than double that. And it's been a huge part of my life. And just the freedom of expression and nakedness and sensuality and sexuality that gathering showed to me and allowed for me was huge. It was the first time I'd ever ran around somewhere topless and, saw so many people just naked and free. So that was absolutely huge. And then several years later, a friend of mine introduced me to a book that was all about female ejaculation. And I remember thinking, what? Like, I didn't even understand that was a concept. Sure enough, I read the book and I was on a mission to find that for myself. And one day I finally discovered that I could do that and what it was. And I was very excited about that conversation. And I started really diving in and studying more about it. And then I actually did a video one day, just communicating about a talk I had with somebody about it one time randomly in a bar. And I was just taking a video marketing course at the time. And so I thought, well, and this was literally when YouTube was just getting going. Because I liked them like an OG influencer before there was even influencers. And so I decided, well, I would film this talk. I talked about the talk and I put it up on YouTube. And next thing you know, my video went viral. Wow. To this date, there's almost like nearly 7 million views. I even like broke the video off, created a new video, and that one started getting, traction and hits and whatnot. Sadly, I never monetized it. I didn't know how to back then, but that was the part where I could hear the nudge from the universe telling me, it was like, clearly this is a conversation that's wanting to be had, needed to be had. granted, a lot of those hits and watches were people late at night looking for porn, and they were finding me talking about it. But it was still, you know, they bumped up my ratings. But regardless, it became this thing where I recognized, even though I was at that time already deep into my women's empowerment work, I had started a magazine all around body, you know, empowerment, because I was so tired of women being portrayed in media in an unrealistic light, and how bad I would feel about that for myself. And then my sisters would feel bad. I was like, I'm going to do something about this. So I was already deep into that exploration, but I would separate sexuality from the body. I was like, nope, body empowerment. No, nothing to do with sexuality. And people were like, why don't you teach a class about female ejaculations? Or why don't you teach me about sexuality? I'm like, I got nothing in this department. Honestly, I had this whole story about my virginity and how I lost it and too young and all this shame, and had a little bit of a sexual, I don't know, it wasn't really molestation, but it was a thing with some young boys in middle school, and that I remembered later in life. You know, you know, so I'm like, I don't know. I'm not very sexual, so I'm not one to teach this. But I kept circling around, and people kept asking me, until one day it really broke through. And then through some pussy empowerment work that I did, I was initiated by spirit. It's a weird thing. Again, longer story, but it showed me that you can't actually have an empowered woman. Here I was trying to empower all these women, and I was empowering them, doing all sorts of workshops and trainings. And Anistara, you were at most of them, right? And I had an awakening that showed me and put me on the portal priestess mystery path, that it showed me clearly, if we're still feeling shame around our genitalia as women, around our pussies, our portals, our yonis, our, you know, vulvas, whatever the name is, flowers, we can not actually be fully realized in our power. It's just, you cannot separate the two. And I was desperately trying to separate the two because of my own shame and my own fears of what that would mean. And also some of the shadow sides of the sexual empowerment movements or the tantra movements that I had a lot of disdain for. So it was an interesting long journey to get to my yes, and a real bop on the head from the fairy magic wand that had me not be able to deny that this indeed is my path.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. And thank goodness it is, because I'm following you on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to represence the question again, it's so we started with the shame and the criticism and the challenge around sexuality, our genitals, all those types of things, and then the question is, where did it shift, right? How did it shift
or change, or
I think for me, just through experience over time, and I would imagine that's the same, like basic for everyone that's shared so far. And I think for me, I think it really shifted in the path of committed relationship, because Sierra, like like this is, I'm not really like woohoo, yay me, but she's the first girl that I didn't like cheat on with other women throughout the whole process. So, you know, at my 20s, not so great, 30s, way better, 40s, awesome. And so like that, I think it changed by being in a committed relationship where Sierra's and my purpose of our relationship is to help us be the best versions of ourselves. Like that's the main reason why we're together. And by creating that safety, and you know, Sierra often says that she's not sexual, or you know, she doesn't do those things, but like from the outside world, everyone comes to her all the time because she's so sexually expressed. And I am as well, even though I wouldn't necessarily call myself sexual either. But what's interesting is like, we actually do have a lot of wisdom and knowledge of how to cultivate your relationship, because the kinds of things that her and I explore in the bedroom with one another, I would imagine a lot of people don't even ever get to touch or look at in their lives. And so although it's done in a really safe and sacred container with the two of us, like it's pretty expansive. And I think for me, the deep work that we've done, like we do a lot of, we say like shamanic sexual healing, you know, with rattles and feathers and, you know, the whole 9 yards. Like we're really going in deep and looking at the trauma aspects that are keeping us from being intimate with one another. Because what we found is that like whenever we're hitting something, it's our fear of being intimate or being seen or keep having ourselves open to one another. And so that's typically where a lot of our trauma or triggers or things come up. So for me, I think the shift was when I made the choice to commit to a relationship, commit to a path of coupleship as my path. That's when I was able to actually look at the stuff to shift and move it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about you, girl?
Well, I mean, I shared, you know, a little bit of like from a cesarean birth to being cut off energetically, and then having that initial pussy church to go to and starting to reconnect with her. And then also too, so much of my work is in the spiritual realms. Like Andrew's like the grounding rod. Like he's the one who's like hands-on 3D reality, build a house, you know, just strong guy, like just grounding rod. And for me, I'm like up in the ethers. I'm like looking at spirituality, reading books about being my divine self and my true essence and my higher self and all these things. And then as my work started really being developed in the world and I stepped into my new embodiment as Anistara, I was so in the upper chakras that the lower chakras, I wasn't paying all that much attention to. Like my root chakra was solid. Like we've got a home, we got properties, we, you know, like we're good. Survival wise, we're good, you know, and personal power. I was like feeling empowered and all these things. And then really another turning point that happened for me was this last 11/11 unified of last year. I was so drained and so exhausted afterwards and so depleted. I was like, what just happened? I just, and I'm like, okay, I just spent 3 years on this project that I love and adore and creating this network of community. And the end result wasn't what I was hoping for. And although we created a beautiful field and there's so many contributors and everything was just so beautifully divine and so well done, so professionally created, in the end, we didn't raise the funds for Kiss the Ground that I was hoping to. And so I had to really kind of go inward. And this winter, I took a time out. Like I literally took 2.5 months off. We just stayed at home. We had some holidays and I came into this place of what's next for me. And I spoke with Sierra and Avina and I was like, the pussy path, this yoni empowerment, just like, this is what feels resonant for me. And so anytime I sit down and I start channeling and I'm talking with her, connecting with her, whether it's mirror gazing, we'll go into some more practices later, but actually having a practice and cultivating a practice with my yoni, with my sacred portal, because that is our portal of creation. And I didn't get to create my child out of my portal. I was denied that. And so that is a trauma unto itself that I'm healing through this path of yoni empowerment. And I just feel so called to share this with other women now because it has completely changed my life. I'm like, oh, right. The whole chakra system has to be open. That means all of it, right? And don't just focus on the upper chakras. So it's been opening me up and my husband and our lovemaking and like a lot of things have shifted for us. And I'm just so grateful. And Eden World too, just being a part of a conscious couples community where we're held in integrity, where we're being seen, we're being heard, and we get to work together and process through things as a community. It's really, really beautiful. So that's kind of like the shift. It's recent for me. Y'all are the experts. I'm learning from you. And that's why I wanted to have this call. I wanted to learn more from you. So let's move on to the next share, right? So the next one I kind of wanted to go over was what practices have you developed? Like, what are the embodiments practices of the divine feminine and the masculine, connecting with our divinity? And is there any classes or workshops or anything that you want to share with people? And what path? Okay, so all of you tended to create your own path, honestly, but some of you spoke about what was influencing your path. So let's just dive into that. Let's give some tools. Let's give some embodiment practices to those who are here with us today. Thank you for being here again. And please keep telling us things in the chat. We're loving your comments and having a better understanding of who's here with us. So yeah, who wants to jump in first?
Well, I'll just say one of the things that was highly influential for me. It was less embodied at the time, but was the work of Alison Armstrong and Understand Men. I ended up in her courses because I had my magazine at the time, and somebody that I knew somebody that was filling her courses and said, "Oh, you've got a whole community of women. Why don't you come and take this free course? And, then you can share it with all your women." And I was like, of course, the name alone, Understand Men, was like, why do I got to understand men? They got to understand me. Right? I was very resistant. And so I remember going in and I got enrolled in the courses, and I took the first course. It's just Celebrating Men, Satisfying Women. Now I think it's called the Queen Course or something like that. And at the time, ironically, I guess maybe I'm heteroflexible, but I consider myself more heteronormative in many ways. But at the time, I happened to have been dating a woman. It was my first ever real relationship with a woman. And I was in this class to understand about men, and I'm dating a woman. It was like the most ironic moment. And yet what it showed me was how masculine I was being. And because I was like applying it from a different lens, it showed me more of me than it showed me how I can understand men. And it helped me really recognize and step into what femininity looks like, and what men, the way she taught it, how they crave, and how, about putting down your sword and not emasculating men, and all of these pieces and parts. And that had a major influence on myself, my magazine, my mission, and really how I began to step out of where I had been being dominantly masculine in all the areas, and really look at, well, what does it look like when I'm bringing more of my feminine online? So that was like the beginning phases. Then I went on, of course, to take other courses and whatnot. Got a shout out to the Pussy Queen herself, Mama Gina, Regina Thomashower. Got involved in her courses later, way later on. But I was really on this path of awakening. But I think Alison Armstrong and the deep distinctions that she made to help me identify. And then I read a really good book by, I don't even remember. I'll have to think about it and put it in the chat. Oh gosh, I'm totally blanking. I used to talk about her book for years, decades. I would talk about it. Anyways, I'll put it in the chat. I'll probably come back. Stop talking. Yeah. But there was something in the book that shared about the beauty of how the feminine is the part of us that's connected to the broader scope of spirit or seeing. And Alison Armstrong talks about is diffuse awareness, right? The ability to see wider, whereas the masculine tends to be, single focused and the doer. And the book, Shakti Gawain, Living in the Light. That's the name of the book.
That's what I was going to say.
Thank you. Living in the Light. It really helped me see that there is really a part of us that when we can be in the being and the receptivity, AKA the feminine or the yin or the, the magnetic, you can call it anything. It doesn't have to be masculine or feminine, but we can then download or upload or activate the creativity or the intuition. And then it's the masculine parts of ourselves, or the more active dynamic parts of ourselves, that then can put that into the physical realm, or the unmanifest to manifest. There's, again, many ways. So those three teachers have been incredibly influential for me in my early stages.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I love Alison Armstrong. Studied with, her books and things a few years ago. And the Mama Gina book, Pussy, A Reclamation, I put it into the chat. I personally have had that book for quite some time and just never read it. And I finally broke it open and read it last month. And I'm just like, oh, wow. Yes. Amazing. So much goodness in there. She actually has a School of Womanly Arts, some program coming up soon too, that I'm going to look into. So anyhow, thank you. Yeah.
I'll go next. That was
Sure.
beautiful. That was beautiful, Sierra. Thank you. My awakening path, my dark night of the soul, I was about, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, coming out of a bad marriage. And I almost died through it, almost had a stroke. And I just walked out of it like, something's off. Like there's more to life than this. There's more to life than the pain and the arguing and just this way that I had seen relationships be. That was in my family. While sex was open, there was also a lot of arguing. And so that was my program, is that relationships have to be tough. This is how they're always going to be. And that's what I kind of, that's why I really didn't have many relationships, because I didn't want to give it a chance to get there. So for me, it was like, I kind of went on this spiritual quest. I picked up some Jeff Brown book who I had never heard of before and just loved his writings. That opened my world up. And then in my quest to kind of get out in the world, I also started studying Tantra and going to tantric workshops. And I even got into orgasmic meditation. That's a whole nother subject. And it wasn't much longer after that I met my beautiful wife, Heike. And I would not be the man I am today without her, not any way. She has lifted me up, constantly helping me to look at things in my life. And we're both so inquisitive. And that's the beauty, as Rano said, of relationship. Like we can't just go into our own trigger, right? And then just never process it in a sense. We have each other to be like, wow, what is that? What's its roots? And so that's one of my biggest tools is to be able to, when you have an emotional reaction to something, not to be so egocentric around it and be right. It's like, where is that coming from? What is it trying to protect? What's the pain underneath it? And getting into that's where I think, Sierra was sharing how the lovemaking is between and how they peel apart these layers that I think can really sometimes only come up in intimate relating. It's like the most beautiful laboratory for this. You think you're fine? Great. Here's your twin flame mirror right in front of you to show you your shit. We had years of that. Thankfully, we're way past that these days. And then the final thing for me as a man, and of course, yes, we have these energies running parallel within us. So for me, whether you're masculine or feminine, it's about connecting every morning. I do this practice every morning. I connect my genitals to my heart. And for me as a man, I go all the way to stroking, and I get hard, but not to climax, but to feel my power as a man. And I get hard and I'll just hold and I'll breathe and put my hand on my heart, because I really feel, and I teach, that my cock is a direct connection to my heart. And that if I lead with my heart, how can my cock ever do damage? It comes from love, and it stays in love. And I want to feel that, and I want to send the love down to my sexuality every day, and use that energy to, really wake my body up in the morning. So that's my meditation practice for embodiment.
I love that. Yes, more men that lead with their hearts and not with their dicks, please. Yes.
Or they can lead with their dick as long as it's connected to their heart. That's the
I got you. You know what I mean. Thank you for clarifying.
So good.
Yes. Julie or Rana?
Yeah, I'd love to follow up on that. So the practices for me evolve around ritual, again, as I spoke before. And so I'd like to talk about two different rituals, one around men and then the other one around women.
Sure.
And so, I had the honor to work primarily with men for a good decade when I was doing hands-on sacred sexual healing work. And my clientele was primarily men. And I had the honor of seeing I mean, I say kind of tongue in cheek, but I also mean it with honor. Like I had the honor of witnessing 1,000 penises in my life. And within that, I was able to also witness the amount of wounding and shame and programming that these beautiful men carry in their cocks, and to do ritual with them to help shift that. You know, I mean, I've seen men with micro penises. You see a lot of men with erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation. I've seen men who had to cut out their testicles due to cancer. I've seen men who are morbidly obese. You know, there's so many different ways that, you know, different forms of the masculine that I was able to honor and worship in these rituals. And I'll never forget this one particular man that changed my life forever. I'm going to tear up. This gentleman was probably around 300 pounds. And I don't know when the last time he had ever been with a woman. And I had the honor to just give this gentleman my love and presence and witnessing of his masculinity. Even when it was in this, whoa, the form that he was embodied was, you know, not normally honored in a physical form, you know, in a romantic way from other women. But to just witness him with love and presence, leading with my heart, as Jonathan said, this man just melted before my eyes. I watched his confidence bloom. And even in not even touching him, just witnessing him and saying, "You're so beautiful," and giving him all these affirmations, you know, watching him rise up on all of the layers of shame heal. So truly taking that time, I see there's a lot of women here on this call. If you relate with men, to do that honoring ritual with the men in your life, and really just take the time to give them affirmation, right? Remind them of all the ways that you see their masculinity and honor them in that way. It's a beautiful, beautiful sacred experience that I had the honor to give to men for many years. The other side that I'd like to mention is regarding work with women. And this comes back to the Portal Priestess Mystery School that Anistara, Sierra, and I are all involved in. And in this school, we teach the art of pussiology, where in a ritual setting, in a group of sisterhood, we do a sacred ritual where women get to witness each other and honor each other in this beautiful ritual setting. And through this art of pussiology, Sierra has developed this beautiful practice where we do yoni gazing or vulva gazing, which is another practice on its own that a woman can do by herself. But in this, we actually held in sisterhood. And so for women to actually be witnessed in a non-sexual way, in a non-erotic way, but in a sacred ceremony, there is so much profound healing around, you know, the common feminine wounds, sister wounds around competition, comparison, jealousy, you know, all of the things that women kind of get caught up on around each other. That just melts away in this ritual where we actually get to witness each other in this way. And the bonus is in this art of pussiology is it's actually a divination session. We actually start seeing these codes and symbols in a woman's genitalia that begins this empowerment cycle for her. I know we'll probably be talking a little bit more about this ritual here towards the end of the call, but I just wanted to name it, that the witnessing of each other and honoring of each other is a profound ritual that we can do for ourselves and for others to help heal this wound of shame.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, yes. It is truly powerful, ladies. I can't even begin to explain it. It's changed my life. All right, we're going to share more
That's
later.
beautiful.
Rano, what do you have to tell us, honey bunny?
Yeah, you know, there's some controversy about David Data and his book, The Way of the Superior Man, but I think it's a super powerful one for men to read. And it certainly, there are parts of it that were triggering, parts of it that I don't fully agree with. But yet the overarching elements of it really helped me step more into my masculinity and more into like a divine masculine. And I think, one of the things that I've learned, being a temple guardian for the portal temple and all of that, is that if we can separate our sexuality from our divinity, or from our, like, just every thought, all the time, just for a moment, to find our divinity, I think that that's a really important thing for men to be able to do too. I think there's so much objectification and, like, outward projection of sexuality, and it because there's a under nurturing of men, and because there's a real dishonoring of mother, and of those types of archetypes in our society, at least this Western culture, but I see it at least on the news or TV and other cultures as well. I think it gets a little bit funky. And so there's just a lot of perverted or twisted or messed up ways of being. And I think that if we're able to actually, like Jonathan does, have a practice with ourselves where we're able to nurture ourselves, we're either able to self-soothe, like the crying baby that never grows up and is always crying inside, still crying and reaching out for something. I think that that's a really challenging aspect. So whatever book it is, whatever workshop you do, whatever those practices are, I think it's important to be able to self-soothe and be able to understand when you're being driven by the impulse to procreate, or if you can shift that and be driven by the impulse to co-create and shift out of that. Supra sexual is something that Sierra and I talk about, and we talk about a lot in Eden as well. Of, instead of just having that drive to do that, like, can you shift it to be creative energy? So that's the one aspect. And the other piece that feels important has totally left my mind right now. So if it comes back to me, I'll bring it to you. But for now, I'll pass it over to you, Anistara.
Okay, totally. Thank you, Rana. I appreciate you. Yeah, I honestly feel like I'm just stepping into what this all means for me. I feel like my embodiment practices now are movement. I love Pilates. I love Zumba. I love boot camp. I like moving my body. But I also love just being in presence and sitting with her. I have this beautiful mirror that I got in Egypt that folds. And I brought several back for the portal priestesses that I was in initiation with at the time. And when it folds, you could sit it right in front of you. And so it gives you the opportunity to really view her in a beautiful way. And I've learned the art of photo taking through the Portal Priestess Mystery School. And the great thing about photos is that when you take it, you actually can see what everybody else sees. When you look in a mirror, you're looking in a reflection. And so it changes how you see it, or what animal shapes you see, or the codes that you can decipher when we're looking at looking through the eye of a divination, of an oracle reading, looking at the yoni by pulling out animal totems, by looking at different symbols, hieroglyphs, runes, lots of things come forward and come through. And so when I'm doing mirror work, I can look at that for myself, but when I take a picture, I can see what everybody else sees. So it changes. It also changes when I have hair, or when I'm not, or when Andrew and I have been intimate together and I'm engorged or I'm not. Like it changes. And so part of our Valentine's Day, we didn't do it on Valentine's Day, we did it the Saturday before. We went to a whole afternoon that was like a couples lover activation, where we got to learn Thai massage and do partner yoga. And then the second part of the session was just tantra and experiencing each other. There was a group of people that would go in the circle and be with individuals around the circle, but we were in the side of the room that was just the partners that were there to be together. And it was beautiful. It started with soft touch, and then it moved to the end towards actually being blindfolded and having a feather having like chocolate mousse and raspberry put on your body and licked off. Like it was so beautiful. And we came home, and I have a ceremony coming up soon in Sebastopol where one of the offerings is we're going to be taking a yoni cast. And so Andrew's like, hey, I got that alginite. Let's take your yoni cast. I'm like, okay, great. And so we spent a couple hours of him casting my yoni so that I would have this beautiful piece, cement piece, plaster Paris piece, latex piece, whatever materials I want to use in the cast, in the mold to create it. And then I can bedazzle it. I could paint it and put sparkles on it and all kinds of things. And so that's going to be part of our yoni empowerment ceremony that we have coming up here in Sebastopol. If any of you are local, I'll put that link in the chat again as well. But the point of that is to have something that you have at home to honor. You can put it on your altar, just artwork in general. Like Sierra and Julie have invited the Portal Priestesses to take their photographs from their oracle readings and layer different things over it. And I got in the habit of I created 2 pieces where I put the codes that I received from a particular reading on top of the photo of my yoni. And there was elephant and snake and the flaming heart and a book and like a pyramid and all these different things that I just would layer. And I don't even remember what app I used, but it creates this beautiful piece of art. And so when we come into a place of having a practice that brings us into the reverence of the sacredness of our phallus or our portal, that to me like shifted something in me vibrationally. Also learning my sexual blueprint, Jaya, the work of Jaya, I learned that I'm an energetic, that I need candles and music and lighting and all the things to even remotely be interested in being intimate. I take a long time to warm up. And so
I think that's a sensual energetic.
Is that
sensual? That's more the sensual side, but
yeah, okay. And where Andrew's sexual, right? I could walk into a room and you'd be like, I'm horny, you know, and it's just like,
let's go now.
How do we meet each other where we're both needs are being met? So let's launch into our 4th share, where we're really gonna just share what it is that you're doing to be in service to helping people. I know that there's the Shamanic Lovers Retreat, there's the Portal Priestess, there's Eden World. So please tell us a little bit more about your offerings and how you can help people feel more embodied with their divinity, how they can feel more alive and radiant, and all the benefits of working with you, whatever your programs, your retreats, any of that is. I would love to have this opportunity to share that with everyone. Yeah.
I'll jump in, I guess, since you're kind of just talking about the portal temples and whatnot. Yeah. So you've been hearing a lot about the Portal Priestess Mystery School. Julie's mentioned it. Anistara's mentioned it. Rana's mentioned it. I've mentioned it. So we have a couple of ways that you can dip your toe in, all the way up to being completely trained as a Portal Priestess Oracle, which is what Anistara's path has been. And so if this conversation is a little squeamish, but you're curious and you're interested and you're wanting to alchemize any shame or negative relationship that you have with that particular part of yourself, I would highly recommend starting with the Love Your Yoni mini course that we have to offer. It's completely free, and it's a 3-part module that gets emailed you. You can do it in your own time, in your own space, and you'll get to see a really incredible video that is an alchemical, magical piece to help you with that, called Secrets of the YOUniverse. And so that link is, the bit.ly link. It's also portalpriestess.com/love-your-yoni. So that's easy, free, and on your own. And then if you're curious and you would like to join us for a Temple of the Sacred Portal offering, we do them all virtually, and we have them once a month. Our next one's coming up March 12th. And we'll have the dates for the next couple months on our site soon. And that's a place where we do an actual live, through a picture on screen in Zoom. You can zoom in from anywhere, a live demo reading of a Pussy of Honor that comes to receive. And it's a 3-hour journey into the YOUniverse. You'll also get to see the secrets of the YOUniverse. And that's portalpriestess.com/temple. And that's a 3-hour virtual event on a Sunday for you to come and be surrounded by sisters in this experience that Anistara and Julie have mentioned. And then from there, we can tell you more, but there's an opportunity coming up at the end of April where we are going to be taking 12 women and initiating you into the path of portal priestesshood. And that is, you'll get your own group reading from other apprentices who've gone through the training. And then you can decide, it's great if you're just wanting to go deeper. It's great if you want to take the ascension path and become a full portal priestess or portal priestess oracle. But either way, it's a really powerful program that Julie and I hold, and Anistara has held in the past with us. And we have, lots of women that support, and that's the initiation, and that's at portalpriestess.com. So those are the three things.
Oh, I'm so excited to see who will be the initiates this year.
I know.
Amazing. And some of you, I've told you about the Temple of the Sacred Portal. I actually got to co-facilitate it a couple weeks ago, which was a beautiful experience. And I'll tell you what, ladies, if you've never had your yoni read before, just come take a look at it. There's only one person with one photo for that particular temple, but you get an idea. You could dip your toe in. You could call me, text me. I will answer any questions that you have too. And I'm going to start offering one-on-one pussy oracle readings too. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
So good.
One of these days, Rana, we're going to offer that for men.
I know it's possible. I have done it on Rano. That's my only test subject so far.
Although she's been asked by many men to do it.
No, that's all. I don't know how many signups we're going to get, but one of these days we're going to break through that one.
I'm with you.
I'm getting snake energy.
And I see a bear.
It looks like a German helmet.
German helmet. So if you want to, if anybody has any more questions about like somatics, what we're talking about with sexual healing, I'll post up our website. It's at extraordinaryliving.com. Our healing, our modality is called pleasure on purpose, because we very much use pleasure, including orgasmic pleasure, to fill up the place where that I'm not good enough used to live. I'm not good enough because it becomes I'm fucking awesome. And that this is really the work that we do. But also importantly is in June, Heike and I are doing a 7-day, our first 7-day, actually, we've done hundreds of smaller workshops, but we have teamed up with Triambika Ma Vive from ISTA fame. She's one of the founders of ISTA. And we went to her and we said, you know what? We want to do something for couples, and we can't do this by ourselves. And you bring all that ISTA great transformational work and come over here with us, and then we're going to bring all of our sex magic and like anatomy and energy and combine this into a powerful week for couples. And we calling it the Shamanic Lovers Retreat. And the website's on there. I'll give you a chance right here to see all the beautiful purples and
so beautiful.
So pretty.
We talk about shamanic loving because the shamanic aspect, it's best described as 1 foot in the ordinary and 1 foot in the non-ordinary, the 1 foot in the magic realms where when Heike and I make love, she goes and sees God and galactic councils. And one thing I had to learn very early on is if she closes her eyes and checks out, keep doing what I'm doing, which of course goes against presence, right? It's like, hey, wait, where'd you go? But she comes back with messages and downloads. And so this is just one aspect of the kind of stuff that we want to teach people on this amazing retreat. So you can learn more at I posted it there in the chat.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous, Jonathan.
Yeah. Awesome.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I guess I will go next. And this is an offering from all 5 of us, really. But this is Eden World, and I will put in the chat the link, but you can go to the website and you can check out things. Particularly, you can learn more about the couples community. The link I'm going to actually put in is to get a free ebook. This is about 35 or so pages. And this particular book has got the 12 principles that really guide relationships. And they're very, very, very helpful in any relationship. A lot of our community members have brought this into their business. Like one of our members is a mechanic, and he brought these 12 principles in to work with his guys in the shop, and he's found that the whole way that the attitude in the shop has changed. They're excellent for working out challenges in the bedroom with your beloved or with your partner in a lot of different
Family
ways.
dynamics.
So I strongly recommend grabbing these for yourself and checking out the community. And there's lots of different ways that you can connect. We also offer passes to some of our events, and there's all sorts of other goodies and things like that once you're on our list. So that is EdenWorld.org/principles, in case you're listening and you're not clicking on links here. EdenWorld.org/principles. Cool. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. And those 12 principles are, like I said, they're a guiding force in my whole life, not just in my relationship with Andrew. Yeah, really important work. So
beautiful.
Yeah. Julie, darling.
And the last gift to everyone in the community, of course, I fully endorse everything that's already been shared here, is I just want to share some free meditations to our Unify community. So if you go to my website, juliaavina.com, very proud of it, designed it myself, thank you. Over here, there's 3 different free meditations. One is for everyone. It's a 5-minute funky meditation to reduce stress in your life. And I love doing meditations. It's called I Am Calm as Fuck. I love doing meditations to make meditation fun. So this is a great download. You'll get the audio for this 5-minute stress meditation. And I also make meditations for lovers and for couples. And so this is actually a download for a 15-minute guided ritual for couples. So it's an audio. And I created these because my husband and I had a lot of challenges being like, we would do our date night and we wanted to do some spiritual practices together. But if one of us got the book out and tried to guide the other, it just got weird, because we're trying to just receive the practice. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm creating meditations for lovers so we can just guide through the experience and have a good time. And then finally, with my women's work, you can find some meditations for women as well on my website. Whoops, that's not a good link. We will fix that link, but I also make meditations for women. And that's part of my collaboration, again, with Sierra around the Portal Priestess Mystery School. I love bringing embodiment practices and pleasure practices to women within our more deeper dive initiation program. So that's what you'll get, kind of this conversation around the sensual practices and so forth. We integrate that into our priestess trainings to help women get embodied in their intuition and their healing, and have make it sacred in everything that we do. So those are my gifts to everyone here.
Love that. Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah. And it really is about making it sacred, right? Because again, is the stigma or some of the trigger is that it always has to be sexual. Like anything that has to do with this or that, it has to be sexual. And it's like, no, if we can honor our yoni, if we can honor our penises in a non-sexual way and just be with them and cultivate our energies and our practices with them, it shifts. It shifts so many different levels in our lives. So we wanted to share that too. So I threw my links into the chat as well. I quickly share that I have a 333 Portal Day transmission coming up. It's next Friday, ladies. So this is for our female embodied goddesses that are on the call. My dear beloved friend, Luminessa Anjara, my new partner in the world, and one of my dearest best friends of 25 years, Dawn Lightamora. We're going to be talking about yoni empowerment. We're going to be talking about what this path is about and how much we've learned. Luminessa is an incredible teacher. She's nearly 70 and she just has so much wisdom, and I'm so grateful to be collaborating with her. So you can find that link there. It's just an Eventbrite page so that you can register. And then we have our live ceremony coming up in Sebastopol, and we want to offer this anywhere that you're at. Like if you want us to come to LA, if you want us to come to Sedona or Minnesota, like, please, we want to bring this to the women of the world. And so the Yoni Empowerment Ceremony is all about a sacred portal puja to vivify your vulva. And it means so much to me right now. And sisters, really the intention is just to connect with your sisters, reconnect with your source, discover your Yoni archetypes. We're going to go through the Native American archetypes of the genital typing, as well as some of the portal priestess archetypes that have become quite common through all of our readings together. And then you'll witness a live Sacred Portal Yoni Oracle reading. We're going to do one right there in person. And then you'll be able to take home with you more practices for feminine embodiment and a renewed connection with your Yoni. And then also the handcrafted Yoni cast that I spoke of earlier. And then what do we get to do? We get to take all those codes and we get to go and learn even more codes as we go to Egypt together next year for 1111 Unified University. I would love to be surrounded by portal priestesses and their partners as we go and explore the sacred sites of Egypt. And it actually culminates at the Temple of Isis on 11/11/2024. So come be with us, join us. The link is in the chat, and I'll make sure that it goes out in our email as well. Oh my goodness, beloveds. I'm so happy that we were here to share this together. Those of you who are on the Zoom call, when we end the recording, we're going to open up for a little bit of Q&A. But I just wanted all of you to just take another moment to share any final thoughts, anything that came up for you as we were all sharing our offerings. Yeah, so one last round.
Well, I'll just say I'm really just honored to have been here and hearing all of the different wisdoms that we bring and the experiences that we've come from, and how we're such a impassioned stand for the new expression of sexuality and our bodies. It feels like there's a real activation happening on this 222 day. So I'm just grateful for being here, for all of you listeners joining, for the community that you've built on Anistara, for the magic that you weave, and for having us all collectively on this panel to share what's true and alive and dear to our hearts.
Thank you, Sierra. I love you so much. Mwah. One of my dearest friends right there.
I know.
And yeah, you know, I have a lot of gratitude for being here as well. It takes a village. I said that earlier, and we're all speaking different language. I mean, we're saying the same thing. And the more of us that are out in the world saying the same thing in our own flavor, in our own spice, but underneath it, the recipe is the same. And the more of this, and the more this spreads, and the more this spreads, this is how change is effective. You know, we reach one person at a time, we reach 10 people at a time, it doesn't matter. Over time, those people go out and they spread it, and they spread it. And this is really one of the things I love about Eden as well, is they're always having this conversation on whatever the subject matter is, to start having new languaging around relationships, to start having a new vision of what's possible in love and what relationships can be and look like the world. Because Heike and I both believe that the conscious relationship is really what's going to change this planet.
Yep. That's how we're creating our heaven on earth, right? That's why it's called the Eden world.
Yes.
Moving from relationship to relationship.
Totally snagging that one.
Go for it. And that's from Michaela. That's from Miraculous.
Of course, the word witch.
The word witch herself.
So good.
Well, I guess since I'm talking, I'll go and then I'll pass it to you, Julie. Yeah, what everybody said, it starts with you, and only you are the one that can make the shift inside of yourself. You're the one that's responsible for how you feel, what your emotions are, who you surround yourself with, the experiences that you have, and you cannot do it alone. Like, you have to do it with support. Even the guys out there, if you're listening to this or watching this, like, it's typically like the lone wolf path for a man, but it's important to heal with other men as well. So do what you need to on your own alone, and really lean into community. Find people to surround yourself with. Anistara has an amazing community. Jonathan has amazing. We all are surrounded by amazing community, and that's what makes the difference. It takes a tribe to support us in this. And the more you can surround yourself with people that actually encourage healthy sexuality, the easier it's going to be for you to be yourself. Because it doesn't matter how funky or weird or like taboo it is, there's definitely a whole bunch of people that think that's the best thing ever. And so finding yourself with those people is going to make a real big difference to making it okay in your world. So cool.
I love it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'll wrap again, just putting a bow around what I'm imagining that most of this community here already knows is how impactful and important it is for each and every one of us to be doing this personal work. And when we take the courage, and I'll speak to the females here, when we take the courage to look, when we take the courage to go into these sacred ceremonies with our sisters, when we have the courage to really just take time with our own sacred portals, do not underestimate the profound impact it will have on the entire planet. Do not underestimate that shift you have in yourself will truly change the world. And I know us as a community, that's what we're all about. And having these conversations, just showing up and being in this conversation is a big piece of it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Anistara, for hosting us in such a beautiful, eloquent way. And we do hope that each and every one of you, with your own gifts, help collaborate and participate in the awakening of the planet with us.
Beautiful. So well put. Thank you, sister. Mwah. As always, it's such a pleasure to be with you, my beloved 1111 Unified Network friends and family and community. And that's what we're here to do. We're all here to serve humanity's awakening. We all hold a piece of the puzzle, and this is just another piece. And I felt called to share it with you. And I feel really resonant with it in my heart in this moment in time. And I'm just so grateful that all of you arrived and came. Thank you to our beautiful panel of experts. Bravo. So beautiful. And I look forward to seeing you all very soon. And ladies, please come to the 3-3 portal day, really, where we get to dive in personally and really see what it means to live on the Yoni empowerment path. All right, angels, have a beautiful day. Happy 222 portal day. Mwah.